The acrid smell of burning wood clawed at Detective Miles Corbin's throat. Flames licked at the sky, a hungry, orange maw devouring the old house. Smoke billowed in thick, black clouds, painting the twilight a suffocating gray. And in the second-story window, framed by the inferno, a small face, streaked with soot and tears, stared out. The child's silent plea, though unheard over the roar of the fire, was a scream in Miles's mind. He gripped the polished wood of his service weapon, the familiar weight a cold comfort against the heat radiating from the burning building. Standing opposite him, silhouetted against the horrifying backdrop, was a man Miles knew. Not well, but enough. Jacob Thorne. Jacob, who held a worn, leather-bound book in one hand and a rusty, old revolver in the other. His face, usually etched with quiet kindness, was contorted with a desperate fear that mirrored the child's. "Jacob, put the gun down," Miles said, his voice strained, trying to project calm he didn't feel. The heat on his face was intense, like standing too close to a blast furnace. The air crackled with the energy of the fire, punctuated by the ominous sounds of collapsing timbers within the house. "I can't, Miles." Jacob's voice was raw, choked with emotion. "You don't understand." The bold text seemed to pulsate with the intensity of the flames. Miles's eyes flickered back to the window. The child, a boy, he thought, maybe 6 or 7, was pressing his small hands against the glass, his mouth open in a soundless cry. "I understand there's a child in there, Jacob. A child who needs help." Miles took a cautious step forward, his hand still steady on his weapon. He could see the conflict warring in Jacob's eyes, the love for the child, the fear of something else. "It's not that simple." Jacob's free hand clenched around the book. "This house, it's not just a house anymore." A gust of wind whipped a sheet of flame across the front porch, forcing Miles to shield his face. The heat was becoming unbearable. He could hear the distant wail of sirens, but they were still minutes away. Minutes the child didn't have. The word felt like a physical blow. Miles knew he had to act. But the gun in Jacob's hand was aimed squarely at him. "Jacob, I'm a police officer. My job is to protect people. Let me help him." Miles's voice was pleading now, stripped of its professional detachment. He was a father himself. He couldn't stand by and watch this. Jacob's gaze was fixed on the burning house, a haunted look in his eyes. Some things are better left undisturbed, Miles. Some things, they don't want to be found." As he spoke, the fire seemed to surge with renewed intensity, as if responding to his words. The child's face in the window was now a hazy blur through the smoke. The words burned themselves into Miles's vision. He knew he couldn't wait any longer. He had to make a move. But the tension between him and Jacob was a palpable force, thick with unspoken history and the horrifying reality of the present. The fate of the child, the secret Jacob held, and the terrifying power of the fire hung precariously in the balance. The air crackled with the heat, the roar of the fire a deafening presence. Miles saw it then, a flicker of movement behind Jacob, near the edge of the burning porch. Something dark and fast, darting into the shadows. He didn't have time to process it. The child's fading face in the window was all that mattered. "Jacob, please." Miles's voice was hoarse, a desperate plea against the inferno. He saw the indecision in Jacob's eyes, the internal battle raging behind them. Jacob's grip on the gun tightened then. With a choked sob, he lowered it slightly. Not fully, but enough. Enough for Miles to see a sliver of hope. "The book," Jacob rasped, his voice raw. "It's in the book. The answer to stop it." The word blazed across the smoky scene. Miles didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, not towards Jacob, but towards the burning house. He knew the risks, the impossible odds, but the child's face was seared into his mind. "Miles, no!" Jacob cried out, but Miles was already moving, dodging falling debris, the intense heat scorching his skin. The front door was a gaping maw of fire. He had to find another way in. He circled the house, the heat following him like a predator. The windows were either engulfed in flames or too high. Then he saw it, a small basement window, partially obscured by overgrown bushes, just above ground level. It wasn't ideal, but it was a chance. He dropped to his knees, ignoring the searing pain as his hands touched the hot earth. He fumbled with the window latch, the metal hot and resistant. The smoke was thick down here, burning his eyes and lungs. He could hear the fire raging above him, the terrifying symphony of destruction. Behind him, he heard Jacob's voice, closer now, strained and urgent. "Miles. The symbols. You need the symbols." Miles finally forced the window open, a rush of hot, smoky air billowing out. He squeezed through the narrow opening, the rough wood scraping against his uniform. He landed on a dusty floor, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and smoke. He was in the basement. Darkness pressed in on him, broken only by the faint glow filtering down from the inferno above and the beam of his own flashlight. He scanned the room, the light dancing over cobwebs and forgotten relics. The bold text hammered at his consciousness. He had to find the child. He had to find what? The book? The symbols? What did Jacob mean? He heard a creak above him, then a heavy thud. The house was collapsing in on itself. He had to be fast. He moved through the basement, his flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. He saw stairs leading up, but they were partially blocked by fallen timbers and engulfed in flames. He had to find another way to the second floor. Then he saw it. A small wooden door, set into the far wall. It looked out of place, newer than the rest of the basement. Hope surged through him. Could this be a hidden passage? A way to reach the child? He pushed the door open. It led into a narrow, dark corridor. As he stepped inside, he felt a sudden drop in temperature, a chilling contrast to the heat of the fire. The air here was still, unnervingly silent, devoid of the crackling and roaring from above. He raised his flashlight. The walls of the corridor were lined with strange symbols, the same ones he had seen on the book Jacob held. They pulsed with a faint, internal light, casting eerie shadows. He felt a prickling sensation on his skin, a sense of being watched. The silence was no longer peaceful, it was heavy with a hidden presence. He was no longer just fighting a fire. He was in something else entirely. Something that the man in the portrait had known about. Something Jacob had been trying to keep hidden. And the child was caught in the middle of it all. He pressed forward, the glowing symbols guiding him deeper into the chilling unknown. He pressed forward, the glowing symbols guiding him deeper into the chilling unknown. The air grew colder, the silence more profound. The sounds of the raging fire above faded, replaced by a low, almost imperceptible hum that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. The symbols pulsed brighter now, casting a pale, ethereal glow that illuminated the narrow passage. They weren't just painted, they seemed to be etched into the very fabric of the stone. He reached the end of the corridor, where it opened into a small, circular chamber. In the center, bathed in the eerie light of the symbols, stood a pedestal. And on the pedestal lay the book. The same worn, leather-bound book Jacob had been holding. Miles hesitated. Every instinct screamed at him to grab the book, to understand what it contained, what hold it had over Jacob, over this house. But the child was still in the burning building above. The bold text flared in his mind, a reminder of his true purpose. He couldn't get sidetracked. Not now. He looked around the chamber, searching for another way out, another path upwards. There was a single, heavy wooden door on the opposite side of the room, reinforced with iron bands. It looked ancient, formidable. He approached it, his flashlight beams sweeping over the rough-hewn wood. There was no handle, no latch. Just more of the glowing symbols etched into its surface. They seemed to shift and rearrange themselves as he watched, an unsettling, almost living pattern. He heard a faint sound then, a whimper. It was close. Coming from behind the door? Or from somewhere else in the chamber? He put his ear against the cool wood. The whimper came again, clearer this time. It was the child. He was behind this door. But how to open it? He pushed against it, but it was solid, unyielding. He looked at the symbols on the door, then at the book on the pedestal. Was there a connection? Did he need the book to open the door? He glanced back at the corridor he had come through. The glowing symbols there seemed to intensify, as if urging him towards the book. He made a decision. He had to risk it. He had to understand. He crossed the chamber to the pedestal and reached for the book. As his fingers brushed against the worn leather, the symbols on the walls and the door flared with blinding intensity. A low groan echoed through the chamber, and the air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. The cover of the book felt strangely warm beneath his touch. He opened it. The pages were filled with the same glowing symbols, arranged in intricate patterns. He couldn't read them. They were alien, ancient. But as he looked, the symbols on the door began to rearrange themselves, mirroring a pattern on the open page. He looked back at the door. The iron bands seemed to vibrate. Slowly, with a deep, grinding sound that resonated through the chamber, the heavy door began to swing inward. A gust of cold air, carrying the faint scent of smoke and something else, something unsettlingly sweet and metallic, flowed from the opening. Miles raised his flashlight, his heart pounding. The whimper came again, louder this time, followed by a small, shaky voice. "Hello? Is someone there?" Miles stepped through the doorway, into a space that was both familiar and terrifyingly wrong. It looked like a child's bedroom. Toys were scattered on the floor, a small bed was in the corner, and on it, huddled beneath a blanket, was the boy from the window. But the room was off. The colors were too vibrant, the shadows too deep, and the air was thick with that strange, sweet, metallic scent. The boy looked up at him, his eyes wide with fear, and something else, something that made the hair on the back of Miles's neck stand on end. He wasn't just scared of the fire. He was scared of something in this room.